All right, and welcome back to the next video on pattern matching. Here I'm going to show you a demo, and we're going to talk about various topics. We'll be talking about generalizing patterns to all devices of a similar type or to all rows in a table. We're also going to talk about how you can manage your patterns. What if you created a pattern by accident and you want to delete it? Or what if you want to modify the range? And finally, we're going to talk about the pattern occurrence events, which are the events that are triggered when data miner detects a pattern. All right, let's dive into this, right? So this is my data miner system that you see right here. And I have installed the accompanying augmented operations course package from the catalog. Yeah. If you did the same, you should also see this kind of tree structure right here, this view structure, and you would have this pattern matching view. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start by focusing on the video server 1 device. Here, I want to define the backup pattern. And remember, a backup pattern is characterized by a spike in CPU and a drop in free disk space. Okay, so let's check this out, right? I'm going to zoom out a bit and I'm going to add my free disk space parameter to this trend graph. This is done by clicking this little arrow up right here. Yeah, and I'm not sure if you can see this. Let me quickly change the screen like so, right? You have this little arrow that you can press to go up. Now you can add the parameter that you find interesting, which is the free disk space. You hit the show trend button and voila, you're in business. Data miner will now show you both parameters on one graph. Now, a backup operation was detected or can be characterized by a spike in CPU and a drop in free disk space, as we see here. So what are we doing? We're going to select this part of the trend graph. Oops, I did something wrong here. Let me try it again. I'm going to select, right mouse button, this part of the trend graph. Voila, make it a little bit nicer, like so. And I'm going to give this a name, which is backup. Simply press enter and you are in business. And data miner will automatically also show other occurrences of this backup pattern on this parameter. There's been a backup here and here. Okay. Now let's see what happens if I open the CPU load. I open the CPU load. What do I see? Well, I see a lot of spikes, but only several of those spikes have the backup label because only on those cases, there was also a drop on the free disk space. If I click this little icon next to the backup, click, it will add all the relevant parameters to my trend graph again. Okay, so far so good. We have created a backup pattern. But maybe you would like to generalize this pattern. What I mean is we have two video servers on this system, video server 1 and 2. And at the moment, we've only configured a backup pattern for video server 1. If I go to video server 2 and I open up the CPU load there, you will see that there is no backup pattern appearing anywhere. Yeah? That's because when you define a pattern, by default, it's only defined on the specific device that you define it on. Okay, can we do something about that? Well, yeah, we can. And there are two ways to do this, right? And I'm going to start with the first way, which is just starting from scratch. I'm going to delete my pattern, voila, like so, and I'm going to recreate it. So again, I'm going to add the free disk space parameter to my trend graph, voila, like this. Okay, I'm going to zoom out again. Voila, like this, voila. And now I want to define or redefine my backup pattern in such a way that it will also be present on video server 2. How do I do that? Well, again, you select the pattern. Voila, you give it a name. But now instead of hitting this check mark, we first go to the cogwheel, the more options button. When you do this, you see that you have more options for this pattern. First, you can decide if you want to detect this pattern in the background. This means that data miner will automatically warn you if it sees this pattern occurring again. For a backup, we don't really need that, so I'm going to switch this off. Next, we have this option right here. Should we apply this pattern to the specific element, video server 1, or should we apply it to all devices of the same protocol? Well, that's clearly what we want, right? Video server 1 and video server 2 have the same protocol, and we want to apply this pattern on both devices. So we're going to do it like this. Now I'm going to hit OK. Now, let's see what happens if I now open my video server 2 device again. I'm going to click the CPU load. We're going to zoom out a bit. And as expected, the backup pattern is appearing correctly. All right. I hope that was clear to you. Yeah. Now, this is generalizing, of course, on a device level, where you say I have a pattern and I want to apply it on all devices having the same protocol, right? You can also generalize patterns in tables of a row. To check this out, let's look at the patterns on tables device on your system. This is also fake data, so no need to worry. You cannot do anything wrong. And here, the servers that I'm monitoring, there are 5 servers. They are not different elements, but they are different rows in a table. Now, you can imagine that you want to define the backup pattern again, but not on one row, but on all the rows simultaneously. Let me show you how you do that. We open the CPU load parameter of server 1 or server 2. It doesn't really matter. And we're going to zoom out a bit. All right. Now, as we've done several times already in this video, we're going to open up the parameter related to the free disk space. Voila. We add that to the trend graph. Okay. Now, a backup, as always, is characterized by a drop in a spike in CPU and a drop in memory. And we see this happening several times, right? So just pick your favorite time that it happened, select it. Oh wait, that's not a nice example. Here the drop is too small. Maybe this is a better example, like so. Yeah, voila. I'm going to make it a little bit smaller, like so. All right, let's give it a name, backup. And maybe because we already have a pattern called backup, we can call it backup 1, right? And now before pressing enter, go to the settings. And okay, we can again opt out to continuously detect this pattern in the background. And now let's look at our options. We have a little bit more options than before. In fact, here it mentions that we are currently applying our pattern only on row 1. But no, we don't want that. We want to find backups on all the rows. So simply change this to all rows. Now let's hit the OK. And let's see if this works on, I don't know, server 4. We're opening up the CPU parameter of server 4, and you notice that the backup 1 pattern is correctly detected on this row as well. So we were effectively able to configure a pattern for all the rows in the table. Okay, all right. Now let's talk a little bit about changing patterns. Assume, for example, that you made a mistake, that we've created a pattern for all the rows, but maybe that was a mistake. Maybe you only want to apply this pattern on server 1. Well, no problem. You simply go to your trend graph, you click the pattern, and now you can start modifying it. You can make it larger or smaller. You can give it a different name, and you can reopen the settings to say, no, I only want this pattern for the first row. Okay, you hit OK. And now indeed, if I open up another parameter of say row number 3, the backup pattern is no longer there. Yeah. Now there is one more way to change your patterns. Simply open any trend graph, right click and select trend patterns. This will give you an overview of all the patterns on your system. Now, server 3 doesn't have any patterns, so it says no patterns found. But if you select show all patterns, you will find all the patterns that are currently present on your system. Now, I've just created those two, so let me just clean up my mess. Voila, before I go on. The final part of this demo now, in the final part, I want to show you how a pattern matching occurrence event, what that looks like. To do that, let me go to the pattern event creator. Now, the pattern event creator is a very simple element that I created. And it just basically creates some random data. And I've selected a specific pattern. I've created a specific pattern, which is like this level shift kind of thing. Yeah, it's a switch reboot. Okay. Now I'm going to trigger that behavior again by clicking the generate pattern button. If I trigger this generate pattern button, if I hit it, it's going to create this pattern again. So let me hit it. Boom. Immediately you see the power consumption jumping to 700, and it's going to remain stable there for about 20 seconds. Now, if everything goes well, data miner should be able to detect your pattern again, the switch reboot pattern. Okay, well, let's see. We're going to click the light bulb. Now, it's found an anomaly, but not yet a pattern. So maybe we have to wait a little bit. Let me check again. And now it has found a recent pattern occurrence. Let me open up the tab, and you indeed see that a pattern switch reboot pattern was detected on your pattern event creator. Okay, so this is where you can see all the recent pattern occurrences on your system. All right. Okay, I hope that was clear. So we're going to wrap up the demo session right now. And I'm going to see you in the next video where we conclude the pattern matching topic. See you then.